Okay.
All right then. Hey there, Catalin from Bucharest, Romania, here on my first talk with Dhammarato, so talking about correct practice and how to find the best terms and the, let's say, the minimum amount of terminology to describe correct practice, hopefully.
Ah, okay. Where do you live?
So I live in Romania. It's near the Balkans.
Wow, jaw
Okay.
drop time.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, a dozen jaw drops. One,
Okay.
you've got internet. Two, you've got good English. Three.
I don't know, did you have negative experiences with people from my area or?
No, in fact, I've got quite a lot of students from Eastern Europe. I've got one
Mhm.
from Estonia, one from
Okay.
Latvia, now one from Romania. I've got
Okay.
one student who lives in New York, but she was born, raised, and speaks Russian.
Okay.
So they're all over. I've got a student who actually lives in the interior of China.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Huh.
I've got several Westerners who are students who live in Thailand. So it's just all over the place.
Hmm.
Uh, though not, I never had anyone from either South America or Central America. Most of the
Oh,
students
okay.
are American, but I've got quite a number from England uh, and France. Lots of Germans. It's just
Yeah, I saw a lot of
not
Germans into
keeping
meditation.
track, just looking
Hmm.
around. But Romania, that's a new one.
Well, I'm glad. Hopefully, they'll be more interested.
All right. So um, basically, let's start with the fact that the middle path is not really strenuous, but that it also is not nothing. That there is work to do. And the work that has to be done is basically the work of skill building. And the skill that's most important is the skill of sati.
Okay.
And that word sati, we define, the Pali word sati defines as remembering.
Okay.
And
I.
it's called mindfulness in the English language, but I don't know why. It must be a Christian word.
Yeah.
But I have not heard of that. There's a lot of words that fall into two classifications. Either English words we never heard of before are really antique, and then there's a whole lot of other words that are just simply Christian. And here Buddhism is stuck with an entire vocabulary that really doesn't match what the actual teachings are. And so Westerners who come to Buddhism and hear about it in these words and languages that they have become confused. But the Buddha was not confusing in words. And one example would be the word samadhi. The word samadhi does not mean concentration.
Okay.
In a way, it means exactly the opposite of concentration.
Okay.
How
So.
is that
Mhm.
possible? Okay. Concentration, we use that word concentrate in the sense of taking things out that are unuseful, unwholesome, not needed. And an example would be orange juice, frozen concentrated orange juice. Another one would be orange juice powder. They've got it so concentrated, all of the water is taken out of it. Okay, you have condensed milk or concentrated milk. These are the ways that we look at concentration, and the Westerners get the idea of focusing down onto something.
Mhm.
Now let's define samadhi according to the way that it should be used. Samadhi is a word that has the quality of gathering things together. qualities that are not there that need to be added to, as opposed to getting rid of things that are there that are not wanted. And so there's several different places that we can look at that. One is that at the end of, not the end of the path really, but the end item on the list is Sama Arya Samati. And that's almost always translated as right noble concentration, but a much better way of talking about it would be right unification of mind, right noble gathering the factors and the forces together. Now, here's the quality of the unified mind. The unified mind is going to be free from lies, because lies separate the mind out. It breaks the mind apart. Doubt. If you're doubt, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, that will also break the mind apart. So this unification of mind has got a different quality to it than most people think about concentration. So let's go back to that word sati for a moment and recognize that this has not the quality of mindfulness, but it has more the quality of to remember. But it also has a major important aspect to it, and that is that what we're actually remembering is what we were intending to do. And that starts then on the path with right noble view. And the view is, I'm going to meditate. The view is, I'm going to watch my breath. And then a while later, we recognize the mind's not watching the breath. That recognition that the mind is not on the breath, which was our intention, is now the arising of sati, the knowing that the mind is not doing what we intended to do. That's also, like I said, step 9 of anapanasati, which means to experience the mind. So basically what sati is to wake up to experience things, to wake up to see what's going on right here, right now. It is that thumb that pushes us out of the past into the present. And now we've got 2 path factors on the way to that 8th path factor of the unified mind. One is we've got right view. The next one is we have right sati. The next one is right effort.
So this
is where almost all Westerners fail, is with right noble effort. They either put in too much effort or not enough. They don't find that sweet spot, that Goldilocks, that middle point, that mid-path place where it's just enough right effort. So the definition would be just the amount of effort needed to get the job done, not too much. Now, an example of things when people are putting in way too much effort, they'll have headaches, they'll have strain, the muscles in the mouth will jump and move, all kinds of twitches will happen, and mostly that's because of high blood pressure in the head area. Now, normally when you go to the doctor and they take blood pressure, they take it out of your arm. But now with modern stuff, they can take blood pressures in all kinds of ways, and this is what neuroscience is beginning to figure out. Is that not only is there blood pressure that can be measured with the sphygmometer over a time of while that thing is going down, but the modern equipment can tell you what the blood pressure is instantaneously right now and watch it on a curve. And this is something that they're beginning to understand, that the blood pressure changes throughout the body. And that oftentimes the blood pressure is very strong in the head because the brain needs all of that blood and all of that oxygen, while there's a lot of neck tension and stress and anxiety in the neck area because they're working too hard, trying too hard. And so the whole quality of the anapanasati is to relax the body, to learn how to relax it. The way that we learn how to relax it is by watching it. And yet many people, by working too hard, I know a number of Westerners, many of them have been monks, and they can't even sit on the floor with the Thai monks anymore. They have to sit in a chair because they have destroyed their legs or their knees,
Okay.
or because they sit too long. They work too hard. They demand too much, and then they suffer a lot. And they suffer in two ways. One, they suffer with the legs, and number two, they suffer if they're going to remain a monk that they can't stay around the other monks, and so they begin to hide away. They can't come out and make friends because they can't even sit. And this is one of the dangers of working too hard. It can get that bad. So we have to learn to work correctly, someplace in that middle path. And the whole key of it is right, noble effort. That's the one to get right, but the one to be developed is sati. Sati is the one you want it over and over and over and over again to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. Here's a good example of that. The world is full of good advice. Lawyers will give you good advice. Doctors will give you good advice. There's just good advice in all kinds of books. There's got to be at least 10,000 Dhamma books and at least another million other kinds of books of self-help, all of them having good advice. That good advice is of no value if the person cannot remember to take that good advice at just the right time. Just when they need it most. This is, in fact, Murphy's Law. Do you know Murphy's Law?
I don't know if I can specify it formally, but yeah, I know about the. So when something goes bad, it goes bad in the most harmful possible way.
Guess what? You are the first one who has ever actually given the third line of that.
Okay.
The first line is anything that can go wrong. The second
Will
one
go
will go
Okay.
wrong. And the third one is, and it will go wrong at the worst possible time. You've got it.
Okay.
And that's when we need that advice most, at the worst possible moment, is when it's not available to us. Because we don't remember. Or if we do remember, we don't take the effort that it takes to change the way that we were doing it. And so this is what meditation is all about, not in a place of sitting down on the floor and doing oomy-doomy gobby-gobbies or all that kind of stuff, but rather to develop the skill of mindfulness with right view and right effort, so that you can begin to act correctly. And these are the things that begin to gather the factors together for that unification of mind. And then we'll add the fourth one, which is kind of a surprise. And that fourth one is right attitude. So now we have two pieces. One is from Panya. That piece is right view and right attitude. And then we're also taking one from the samadhi end of it, right sati and right effort. We're putting these things together like the Buddha does. He says that, in fact, right effort, right sati, and right right view run and circle around one another. And then we add right noble attitude. So let me explain to you what I mean by right noble attitude. Right noble attitude is the attitude that you can climb to the top of your own pile of crap. The wrong attitude is help, help, I'm stuck. I need help getting out of this stuff, and it's dukkha, and it's suffering, and I want out, and I climb and I climb, and I can't get out. That's the wrong attitude. That's the loser's attitude, the victim's attitude, the attitude of, I need help. Let me pray. Let me seek help. I need help from the outside world because I can't do it on my own. This is the first doubt that needs to be worked with, so that you can come to the conclusion with right attitude, with right effort, and with right sati and right noble view that you can do it. You can practice the path of the Buddha. You can do it. And you can become a winner. You can crawl to the top of your own mountain of crap. and become the emperor. And so, in that way of looking at it, thoughts and feelings that are associated upon their arisal with suffering no longer hold their power. It's not like that we kill it, but more like we domesticate it or pacify it or train it. An example would be anxiety, that you want to train, pacify, and use what restlessness there is so that you can, in fact, get out of bed, put on your clothes, go to work.
Mm-hmm.
You need that, but you do not need that restlessness to form into anxiety, worry, needing to do things. And so you have to make sure that you domesticate it, you pacify it, you bring it under control. So this is basically part of the goal that we have is that we're going to become emperor of our emotions. And that emperor is not going to be the emperor of a vast wasteland. It's going to be the emperor of a magnificent garden. That all of that crap and bullshit that we've been dealing with becomes the fertilizer for the garden. So this is the new attitude, the new way of thinking, that you can do this. You are the champion. And if you put those things together, you see that you're putting together the path, the Eightfold Noble Path. Then, in fact, the only thing that we haven't talked about is right, noble action and speech and livelihood. But if you think about it from the perspective of a meditator, when he's sitting in the meditation hall, he's already free from those things. It is kind of hard to steal somebody's purse when you're on the other side of the room with your eyes closed, sitting in peace. And actually being in peace is the key. If you're actually satisfied and comfortable, then you don't need to go steal things. This is the right way of looking at sila is that when the mind is noble, when the mind is satisfied with what we have, then we don't want things that other people have. We don't become jealous of what they have and want to take it from them. We become satisfied. We don't want that other guy's wife. We may like her, but we don't want her. And so this is really the basic or the foundation of sila or morality. The real foundation is not because I'm following a set of rules because I'm afraid if I break a rule I'm going to get punished. That's the old let us call it ordinary human way of looking at it. But the noble way of looking at it is that because I'm already satisfied, I don't need to do any of that kind of stuff. Then I'm naturally my job is to avoid suffering. So if I'm out there avoiding suffering, here's an example. Thinking about that all of life is like a dance floor. And everyone's out there dancing. And your primary job is to not how beautifully you dance. Your primary job is number one, don't get your feet stepped on. And number two, don't step on anybody else's feet. And that sometimes takes some mindfulness. You got to watch where you're stepping. In a way, that's the entire path of the Buddha. Is let's go dancing. Just watch your step. So when we put things in a class or an order or a list of things, then we get, because of being students do first grade and then they do second grade and then they do third grade. And so they think that because school is in an organized way, that religion should also be taught in an organized way. and that books have to be written in an organized way. Otherwise, they don't make much sense. But life is not organized. Life comes at you according to, let us say, opportunities, cause and effects. Life is complicated, so that we have to begin to watch what's happening that needs to be watched right now, as opposed to trying to take care of things because they're on a list. And so with that Mahasi system that has 16 stages of insight, the last step of insight, which is the ongoing observation for the defilements that's still remaining, that step has a lot of stuff in it. First off, it proves that this is not the path to enlightenment or to the path of complete freedom. This is merely the path of Sotapan, because in fact, that's the full job of the Sotapan, is to watch and keep track. But guess what? If you don't start doing that right from the very beginning, you're not going to make any progress at all. So why they put it up at step 16, they should put it down at step 1, because when it's taken, but when you put it into the context that they meant it, then you can understand why it's at step 16, but you can't wait for some sort of magical timing or some event or some experience, and you say, okay, I'm notching up on a level of this ladder. That basically it would be like learning to play a musical instrument. And the first year of practice, you're only going to play the note C. The second year, you get a D, and now you've got 2 notes. And 16 years from now, we'll give you all 16 notes, okay, or 13 notes, whatever. That's the way that the Western mind thinks, because we have been educated in a formal system. But real music requires that you play every note that's available when its time is correct. And it's all about timing. And all the notes are always played right now. There is not one note that's played in the future. And so time moves pretty quick. The nows move along quite well. In fact, the Buddha had a statement in the Anguttara Nikayas, in the ones, where he said, monks, the mind is so fast that I don't even have an analogy for how fast the mind is. And so your job, should you choose to accept it, is to start watching how fast this mind is, so you can begin to see these things that are occurring in there, so that you can begin to take charge of them.
All right.
And so that's basically what the practice is all about. But the practice is in a format of Anapanasati. Now, Anapanasati also is in 16 steps, and the natural Western mind is going to say step 1 this year, step 2 next year, step 5 is in 5 years. You know, that's the kind of way that we think about it. But in fact, the steps of Anapanasati are much more like musical notes on a keyboard. And to play a certain piece of music, you've got to play the notes in a certain order. And just to joke around with you, not to make you try to memorize this, but the sequence is going to be step 9, step 10, step 13, step 5, step 6, step 1, step 2, step 5, step 6, step 6, step 7, step 7, step 7, step 7. Stay on step 7, because you've got someplace now, okay? And so this is, and the way that I'm speaking of it, these are points of Anapanasati in the sense of step 9, then, is sati, to remember, to recognize the mind, actually to experience the mind is sati, to wake up. What's happening? This is one's wakey. And we want to do that over and over and over and over again, to keep coming back to the here now, to not let thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, thoughts of restlessness, thoughts of worriness. Those things are not wholesome. They're not satisfying. They're thoughts about what can I do to be satisfied rather than thoughts of this is satisfying.
All right. Okay.
We even think of the Four Noble Truths like that, of this is going to be suffering rather than this is suffering.
Okay.
Okay, so everything comes back into the present moment. So step 9 is first. That's seeing that the mind has wandered away. In the Goenka method, this is the never mind part. But the never mind part also has the quality of right effort built into it. So at this point,
Okay.
right effort and right sati come into play in step 9 and 10 of Anapanasati. In the step 10 is what they call gladdening the mind. It also has the quality of beginning to bring the attitude out of a loser's attitude into a winner's attitude. The loser's attitude is, oh no, there it goes again. The mind is wandering around. Oh, it's a monkey mind. Maybe I'm not practicing right. Maybe this is the wrong time of day to practice. Maybe this is the wrong place to practice. Maybe I'm not following the instructions correctly. Maybe I don't have a good teacher. I mean, you can hear all of the doubts that are going to come up that's going to keep a person stuck in the old bad mindset of being a loser. But we make a change intentionally to change it to be a winner. And here's what that means or looks like. Your mind, like everyone's, has been wandering away forever. Your whole life it's been wandering around. The new part is now you can begin to see that. By giving it an object, for instance, in the beginning, the object is the breath. And then the mind is not on the breath. And you can see, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I can see you are not on the breath. And by doing that, that's something that's magical, to be able to see something new. So that's not a disappointment. And yet most people get disappointed with their meditation. They think, oh, I should work harder. Oh, no, you should stop feeling bad instead of working harder. You stop feeling bad, and what you do is you start feeling good with the quality or the concept, aha, I caught you. Mr. Wandering Mind, you have just been seen. Aha, I can see you. So we're now gathering some of the factors together that would be considered the jhana factors for first jhana. We need to collect with samadhi the jhana factors together. Now, most people think that the samadhi is a state of mind, but that's not the right way to look at it. The right way to look at it is the samadhi is the gathering together of the factors for first jhana that we have not had before. And we didn't have them because the mind was wandering away. And one of the major qualities of the mind wandering away being a hindrance is that it's not a factor of first jhana. First jhana is to be secluded from the hindrances. All right? Okay. So getting rid of the hindrances, we've already gotten one of the jhana factors going. The next one is we really like the fact that now the mind is free from hindrances. Out they went. I'm here now. All right. So this is the right attitude to have, and we're beginning to build other qualities of it. One of these, in fact, in the description of the first jhana, it says, with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. A lot of people don't know what that means, so let's pick it apart, because all of it's right there in the Anapanasati Sutta. Rapture and pleasure. What is rapture? What is piti? Piti is the Pali word sukha. With piti and sukha from the seclusion of the hindrances. It's kind of like a relief. Oh, what a relief it is to not have to worry about the fight I had with Aunt Susie last night. I can just set it aside and not worry about it anymore. All right, so that's the seclusion part. But it also has that quality that's left over from the Anapanasati step number 10 of gladdening the mind. Being happy that we can see the mind wandering away. To be happy with our progress in this moment. Aha, I see you. Because that aha, I see you, that gladdening of the mind is going to be needed in all kinds of times and places in the future, like when anger comes up. Aha, I see you.
Okay.
When sadness comes up, aha, I see that too. When anxiety comes up, I got you. I can see you sneaking up. Okay, so this is the basic practice, is sati. Always sati. To remember to look at what's going on, to remember to investigate. Now, this word, the word that I'm using, investigate, that's actually a major quality of noble right view. One's right view is to keep looking, keep investigating. One's right view is to not draw conclusions. I have attained. This is not a conclusion you want to draw. I cannot attain. That's also not a conclusion to draw. If there is any conclusion to draw, it's got to be really, really short term in the sense of this is nice. I like this. This is very good. So this is now how we're working with right view. As right view gets more and more noble, it takes on more and more a quality of practical investigation, of looking closely. Now, one of the qualities of the right noble view is that we draw above our own selfishness and begin to see our selfishness in relationship to other people. In that regard, right noble view actually becomes compassion itself. When right noble view is progressing correctly, it passes through a huge area of beautiful compassion. So you don't longer take your own point of view. You can see everybody's points of view. But it's all done through investigation. And that's an important part of the right view, because the investigation is basically, how am I going to get out of this pile of crap I'm in and get to the top of it? I got to investigate where to put the feet, where to grab hold and start to climb. And we joyfully climb out of it. Hey, this is good. I can get out of this stuff. And so we begin to do the work. Now, the real work, when we start paying attention to the feelings basically are there. Let me back up just a little bit. The Anapanasati practice is for the fulfillment of the 4 foundations of mindfulness.
Okay. I don't
The
think
4
I know
foundations of mindfulness are body, feeling, mind, and the objects of the mind. And then the first objects that we were dealing with were the objects of hindrances. But now we've gotten free from those hindrances. We've gladdened the mind, we've experienced the mind, we've watched the mind, and now we start working with the feelings. Because they're also jhana factors. So step 5 of Anapanasati is piti. Do you know what piti is?
I don't know if it's like this intense joy, or I don't know how to call it.
Everybody talks about the word joy, so we'll use that word too.
I also heard rapture, but...
Well, what is rapture? Is a hot dog in a bun not raptured in that bun? We can get wrapped up in our bedclothes. We can get wrapped up in thought. But basically what we're talking about here in the sense of rapture is a sense of great relief. And that relief has the quality, the most important quality is a job well done.
Okay.
I've done the job that needed to be done, and I am champion of that job. And in that case, crawling out of that muck might be, I have finally found a handhold. That was my job, and I have just successfully completed that job. Okay? Moment by moment by moment, you find your win. You find your ability to feel good and have the feeling of pleasure that's not based upon the outside world, but it's based upon your own capability. So rather than getting your pleasure and win and success and competition from the outside world, you're going to start enjoying the fact that you can win, that you can keep the mind, at least for a short time, as soon as you recognize it, out of the hindrances. That you are a champion. So now, in fact, step 5 of Anapanasati is nothing more than the second item on the Eightfold Noble Path, right attitude.
Okay.
Right noble attitude is really, really up there. So your rapture also has the quality of being really up there, a real win, a major win, an important win, a satisfying win, a successful win. I did
it. Okay.
Kind of like the feeling you would have when you finally reach the top of a mountain you were climbing. Another example would be a real estate agent trying to get a contract signed. And once that contract is signed, that relief, that joy comes. Wow. Okay. And another one would be is that the night when the guy goes out and he finds out for sure, without a doubt, he's going to get laid. That's that win. I'm going to get it. Okay. This is what we're talking about, is that really good place that you have had before. And I know that you've had those experiences because you're laughing. If you didn't have a clue about what I was talking about, you'd say, what are you doing? You know, but you know that you have had good peak experiences before. You will use that part of your sankara rather than the other part of the sankara of anger, guilt, remorse, and all of those bad feelings. You're actually going to work with and manufacture joy out of the constituent components of joy that you have experienced throughout your whole life to give yourself a really good high. When? Right now. It's wonderful. Not, oh, I'm going to build up. No, it's a skill to be developed. So we work on the development quality of it right now. Don't worry about it's going to get better and better. That's just natural part of the course. And in this regard, we also begin to develop shraddha, confidence, the ability to hang in there and to do it successfully. That's why it's called confidence. But many times the word shraddha, because of Christianity, is translated as the word faith.
Okay.
Faith is not much. That faith, as long as it's blind, just remains faith. Some people will say, well, it starts out with faith, but it has to grow into confidence. The answer is, well, if you've got absolutely no results from your experience with meditation, then why would you continue to do it? What value is faith? To continue to do the wrong thing over and over and over again, hoping to get something out of it, is not the right practice. And that's not the way that the Buddha taught anyway. Here's something to remind yourself over and over again. The practice of the Buddha is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. And in all of that, there is no place for, if you work really hard, you'll get some results someday.
Like a 401k or something.
It's like a 401k, except that you get a dividend or a check every day from it rather than having to wait until you're almost dead.
Okay.
Exactly so. Now you're beginning to see this is the practice, but most all the religions are about, oh, you be good now, and after you die, you'll get a reward. So that whole mentality is part of Western culture. Oh, you do this job, and then later you'll get a promotion. Or, oh, you buy this car, and later you'll get a girl. It's a chick magnet. All kinds of cause-effect stuff that has a break. Real cause and effect has no break, in the sense of this causes that. The effect is immediate. As soon as the cause happens, the effect comes along. An example of that is you throw the wall switch and the light comes on because the conditions had changed. But most people have magical ideas, and that magical idea, oh, if I take this job, I'm going to get a paycheck. Guess what? There comes a time in most of the companies, most companies don't last 300 or 400 years. They're not like Lloyd's of London. They don't last. Many restaurants, in fact, only open and stay open for 6 months. That's about the average for the lifespan of a restaurant.
Oh, okay.
All right, maybe a year, but after that, they're no good. Some businesses go for 5 years. But here's the point I'm making is that every employee, every time they say, if I do this work for this week, I'm going to get a paycheck. Eventually, that's not going to happen. Eventually, that plant's going to close down and not pay you your last paycheck, but he's going to work you right up until the time that you should be paid. And some people are even so stupid to keep working even after they don't get paid.
Okay, all right.
All right? But why do that? Because they believe in the karma machine. They believe that if they do good work, they're going to get good results someday in the future. And so we bring that attitude to meditation. And that's why we struggle, is because we expect the benefit to be later.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'm
so
getting you to orient around the fact that, oh, all the benefits you're going to have are the benefits you create right now for yourself, and now you enjoy them right now. And that the whole quality of getting into that state of feeling like a winner, that step 5 then melts into step 6, which is satisfaction. And you become extraordinarily satisfied with the position that your mind is in. You're sitting there on the floor, you've gotten the hindrances out, you're collecting the jhana factors, and you've got both the freedom, the rapture, and now you're completely satisfied, and the mind is now sharp, focused, and ready for work. What are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to make sure that anything that would be unwholesome and pull me out of this state, I want to watch for that and check it to make sure that it doesn't take me out of this happy, successful state I'm in. Well, what could throw us out? Well, unwholesome thoughts can throw us out. So we do not want to have any unwholesome thoughts. We want to entertain only wholesome thoughts. Because if I start thinking about the fight that I had with Susie yesterday, I'm going to lose my state of satisfaction and want to go suck up to her and apologize and I feel bad. Or you can say, wait a minute, Susie, you bitch. I should have told you this, that, and so here's all of this. But in no case are we can stay satisfied when we're thinking about Susie. Therefore, out she goes.
Okay.
Don't think about things that take you out of a state of joy and happiness. In that regard, like writing emails, only write emails when you're actually typing. Don't write emails when you're laying in bed at night.
Right.
And I would say that almost all the emails that have never been sent were posted in the sleep or in thoughts before they went to sleep. And then they get up the next morning with a few of the ideas, but the email that they actually write has got nothing to do with the thoughts they had last night. Last night was just, I'm going to get him. I'm going to say this. And so if you catch yourself writing emails when instead you could be just enjoying the night, just enjoying, oh, this is really nice. Oh, nothing to do and no place to go for the next 8 hours. I can just lay here and just feel, ooh, so comfy and cozy. People lay down, they don't think about it like that. They think, oh, I've got to go to sleep. I've got to go to sleep because I've got all this stuff. I've got that email to write tomorrow. Let me talk about that too. Does any of this sound familiar?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay, so once we get that state of sukha, The word, by the way, sukha, is the Pali word that means exactly opposite of dukkha. Dukkha generally means unsatisfactory. It doesn't mean
Okay.
suffering. It means things are just not up to scratch. But when we're in a state of sukha, that means, hey, there is no suffering. This is it. This is good enough. In regards to that, this is actually your own personal experience of the third noble truth. This is what it's like to be free from suffering. Oh, this is what it's like. Amazing. So we begin to experiment with wholesome thoughts, and the wholesome thoughts would be wholesome thoughts about what's happening right now in relationship to the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths. Because when we understand this is suffering, this is the nature of suffering, this is what's causing suffering, we start to come out of personality view. We recognize that the human being is not a hardcore soul that is going to be reborn, only to be kicked around by either a God in heaven or a karma machine. That those kind of things don't have any effect upon me. What has effect upon me is me. And that's temporary. Let me at least enjoy this life, because who knows what the future is going to bring. So let's enjoy this one. But if you believe in a soul, then doing this investigation, you're going to get really disappointed because you're not going to be able to find it. All you find instead with this investigation is just merely process. The process that we're talking about is actually got a name for it in Buddhism called Paticca Samuppada or Paticca Samuppada, depending upon what country you're in. And it generally translates into dependent origination. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of the term, and I looked the explanation up a bit. I think it was like 12 links or something, but it was kind of too heavy for me at the moment.
All right. Well, let's not take that hardcore, this many steps kind of approach and take a middle path to recognize basically what Paticca Samuppada is all about is that it shows an individual a map so that he can go and discover how his own mind works. And so Paticca Samuppada is like the map that you use, and Anapanasati is the actual practice. And you put Anapanasati and Paticca Samuppada together, and that's how the student begins to see how the mind works. So the best way to do Paticca Samuppada is, in fact, in this state of satisfaction, so that you can see this stuff come up. You can see how the mind creates things that are different than the actual reality. That when we perceive things, what we perceive is often slightly different than the actual thing. For instance, if we see a tree that's on fire, if you see just the tree on fire, you see a tree on fire. But most people don't see that. What they see is, oh my God, the tree is on fire. But all of that, oh my God, the tree's on fire, comes out of their own mind. It doesn't come out of the actual tree being on fire. That we inflate things, we make them bigger than they are. It's called grandiosity. That what's actually out there, we make bigger, and then we describe it as bigger to try to talk about not what the event was, but how we felt about the event.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's the problem, is how we feel about reality that actually happens. When we stop having feelings about it, then we can actually experience reality happily. So you can see we're marching right towards Zen. This is it. But these are the various pieces that we want to put together in that 16 steps of Anapanasati. In fact, we've covered most of them already, just in this talk. Okay. But one that I want to make sure that you've gotten, and that is step 1 of Anapanasati. I haven't even bothered to mention it yet, and yet it's number 1.
Okay.
And that is the deep, long breath.
Okay.
Now, the thing that's interesting about the long in-breath and the long out-breath and the short in-breath and the short out-breath is that the verbs that describe this in the Pali is the verb that has to do with knowing or understanding, in the sense that you already know how to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, you know how to take a deep breath. Show me. Okay, see, you can do it.
Yeah.
You already knew how to do it. But that's the only part of Anapanasati that has that verb. All of the others have the
Okay.
verb for training. They're all skills to be developed. And so in the beginning, like a beginning piano student, you're going to be a little bit sloppy, but you can still make your way through the piece of music. All right? But you keep going that over and over and over again, playing this one little short tune, only got 16 notes in it. You keep playing it over and over and over again, you're going to get really good at it. But this step one of Anapanasati is a big, big deal, even though that it looks like we already know how to do it, because the issue is sati. Do you remember to take that long, deep breath? Because, in fact, if you look at that long, deep breath in relationship to the piti, or the rapture,
Okay.
you can begin to see, wait a minute, it's the same thing. That's the win, to be able to take an in-breath. That, in fact, when you die, the last thing you do that can be seen is to expire. That's why they use the word expire, is to take an out-breath. Well, guess what? You ain't dead yet. You're going to take a new in-breath. In fact, not only this in-breath is alive, it's the winner, the champion. That's why we have that quality of a really big, deep in-breath, because it goes along with the rest of the practice.
Okay.
And not only that, but we also understand from neuroscience that humans do not breathe nearly enough. That's why they get tired when they're sitting at their desk, or that meditation students get tired because they're not deep breathing. They're not taking enough air. So you have to remember also to take these deep breaths. You have to remember to take a deep breath and let it out. And that deep breath is also a very joyful breath, a very happy breath, a very successful breath. And the out breath, then, like the in breath would be step 5 of rapture, the win, the out breath is now the sukha, the relaxation. The out breath is a sigh. And so in that regard, the in-breath is always shorter in duration of time. It's a short in-breath. We do that a lot in all kinds of things, including musicians that play brass and woodwinds. They're very skilled at taking a very deep, quick in-breath. And then they can let that breath out over long, several measures, even a page of music. Just like I can talk and talk and talk without having to take a deep breath. And even laugh without taking in a breath. But when I do, I go. And so this is the way to start paying attention to the breath, only because it's part of the package that we have to pay attention to. And the main things that we're going to have to pay attention to can come down to the quality of satipanya, to remember to be wise, to remember to do the right thing, to remember to breathe properly, to remember to be the champion, to remember to be satisfied, to remember to keep watching, to remember to be on guard, to remember to be on guard to keep only wholesome thoughts in the mind, to remember to review the wholesome thoughts in the sense of this is suffering, this is the Eightfold Noble Path, I'm practicing it right now. In breath time. So this whole quality then has to do with bringing everything together kind of as a package, and the everything together as a package now is the collection of all of the factors of samadhi. So anapanasati is to help you collect the factors together, and we can practice all of these things. First thing, every time the mind wanders away and we catch it wandering away. And that's going to happen more and more as you become expert while you're in sitting practice. But we're going to take this stuff off the cushion too, so that you can start to remember to come out of whatever it was that you were doing and come back and take a deep, happy, successful breath and become satisfied. Now, I'll leave you with this at the end, and you can ask some questions. But the last thing that I want to say is that which is better, to be enlightened or to be satisfied?
Yeah, I think they should be the same, or
You're going in the right direction. Exactly, exactly. If
enlightenment
there
or
is a kind of enlightenment that has dissatisfaction in it, then I don't want that kind of enlightenment. I'll take satisfaction alone, even if it's not enlightened. This is the whole quality that we're looking for then is so, but the Westerners have the idea that enlightenment is at a distance, it's far away, it's something to struggle to attain, and if I struggle hard enough, it will be given to me as a gift by some magical machine. That's the way that people look at enlightenment. So don't try for enlightenment, try for satisfaction, because satisfaction, you can have it right now. So this is our first time together. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, regarding what you said. So you made me more aware that I might be getting into a lot of models and projecting. Would you recommend to me for a while to stop reading books and just take initiative to practice?
Start reading the real important book.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, start reading the right book and to follow that along with that passage because you already have enough, but we'll give you more details about it later. But right now, you know the ingredients, the important ones are the big four, and that is the first four parts of the Eightfold Noble Path. To have the right view, to have the right sati, coming back over and over, to have the right attitude that's based upon the right effort. Your effort has got to be gentle. It's got to be a happy effort. The way you would train a puppy.
Okay.
But the regular way, the Western way that we try to train our mind is the way that Westerners try to train a horse. We grab it by the throat, we put on a harness, we throw on a saddle, we cinch it up tight, we get the biggest, toughest cowboy in the pasture to climb on top of that animal and ride it until it gets exhausted. Well, that's exactly the way that Westerners practice meditation, but there's a different way of training animals, different way of training horses, and there's a very, very famous school. Someplace you might even know about it because it's in Eastern Europe. And that is that they have a really, really big area. But it's also enclosed. It's a building, but it's a huge, huge place where they train the horses. They bring the horse out there. They let him get familiar with the place. And then the guy comes out and feeds him, gives him an apple or something really nice, shows him the harness, puts the harness on himself. Then he takes it and lets the horse see it. And then he puts the harness on the horse. And then he pats the horse and he becomes friends with the horse and he does all kinds of nice things with the horse, but he leaves the harness on unused. The next day, the guy comes out with more apples. This time, the trainer is wearing a saddle on his own shoulder. And he said, "Look at my saddle. Isn't that? Do you want a saddle too?" And the horse gets interested. And so they put the saddle on it, but they don't cinch it. They just put the saddle there. Later they come and they cinch it, but not very tightly. And then the final part of this is then they put a child. Now the child has already been trained. He's already been riding a lot of horses that have been trained. So this kid knows what to do. And all he has to do is just sit on this horse because we're trying to train the horse, not like an American cowboy, but like an Eastern European noble equestrian organization.
Okay.
Okay. You start doing it that way. You are no longer going to be a cowboy riding your mind into the dust. But you're going to be extremely friendly with the mind, extremely cautious. You want to train it. You don't want to punish it. You want to make it friendly, including all of the anxiety, all of the anger, all of the frustration. You're going to merely pacify them, not beat them to hell.
Okay.
Be gentle on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Be kind. And be joyful and happy when you can remember that the mind has wandered away, because you're going to catch it 10,000 times now. You see, in the beginning, when students start, they'll catch the mind wandering away 3, 4, 5 times. And they say monkey mind. But after about day 6 of a Goenka retreat, they're catching it 30 or 40, 50 times, and they're saying, ah, monkey mind, monkey mind. But they're actually improving. They're improving. They're getting better and better sati, but they don't like it because they can see more and more dirt.
The dirt was the
But
dirt
that's what
was
the
there.
practice is all about. That's exactly right. We're out looking for dirt. If we see dirt, we should be happy we found it. That's what we're out there looking for.
Yeah, it was still there, but we just didn't see it before, so that made us feel comfortable.
Yes, and now we're taking a good close look, and we're still staying comfortable.
All right.
So good luck with this. By the way, how much time do you practice every day?
About 20 minutes sitting practice.
All right.
I
That'll
try to be
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll
should
be
step
good.
it up
Make
a
sure
bit.
during that time that you're breathing deeply.
All right.
Start watching the mind in the sense that it is as sharp at the end of that 20 minutes as it was when you first sat down.
Okay.
That it's not going to get dull. That you're going to. Here's an example. People who go to a gym to lift weights, in the beginning, they get tired really quickly. But as they practice more and more, they can practice with heavier and heavier weights for a longer period of time. That's one of the reasons why we're going to increase your sitting time, but we want to make sure that in your 20 minutes that you're just as fresh, just as sharp, just as powerful, and just as happy with your meditation when you finish it as that you were when you started, or even better.
All right.
And that's the quality of deep breathing. So you go do that. But you also begin to recognize, wait a minute, you can feel good anytime throughout the day. All you have to do is remember. And so you can start practicing this throughout the day also. I'll give you some techniques specifically later, but I think we've had enough for today.
Just a quick question about deep breaths.
Yes.
I wanted to clarify this point. A lot of people say don't control the breath during meditation. So you take a deep breath and then you let it relax. And
actually, what I would say to them is, please go wait outside. I'll be with you later.
Okay.
Yes, that's because of a misunderstanding that, yes, you do want to control your breath. Absolutely. This is not a choiceless awareness exercise of the Buddha. You know, choiceless exercise is choiceless awareness is, oh, I see all of those hindrances and all of that crap, but I'm supposed to get used to it. Well, that's not satisfaction. We want to get really satisfied. We don't want to just have to tolerate or put up with stuff. We want to be right on top of it. We don't want to be in the middle of that crap saying, well, I guess I can put up with it. No, you're going to take control of not just the breath, you're going to take control of all kinds of things. And the first one will be to take control of that breath. Now, here's something very interesting about that. The neuroscientists, through their MRIs, have found out that when people are actually breathing consciously, that it does actually light up the frontal cortexes. That normal breathing is done by the anterior cortex as part of the reptilian brain, which is also the seat of all of our old emotional feelings. And so by bringing the power to the front, you're actually putting the human in control and not allowing the animal part of your brain to be in control anymore. This is basically one of the neuroscientific ways of saying this is what the teachings of the Buddha is all about. Get off your ass and wake up. All right, so you do want to take control of the breath. You want to take good, long, slow, deep breaths. Where they got the idea to not control the breath, I don't know, but I know some of the sources of it. Mostly it's coming out of Sri Lanka.
Okay.
But that's not the teaching of the Buddha. Why would Anapanasati, why would the Buddha put the long, deep breath as the number one step of Anapanasati and say, this is the practice, of great truth, and contrast that with jhana practices, with metta practices, and with other practices that people are doing? The Buddha recommends Anapanasati. Deep breathing is the first step. Where do these Buddhist teachers come with the Buddha saying, don't control your breath?
Okay.
I don't know. I know who, but I don't know why. So that's the answer to that. Yes, you do want to control your breath. Final example. Airline. Big jumbo jet has an automatic pilot. That automatic pilot will keep that jet in the air. It'll keep it with proper power. It'll have the right heading. It'll have the right speed. It'll have the right pitch, the right yaw. Everything will be done in that regard by the automatic pilot. But if there's a thunderstorm, the automatic pilot's going to run you right into that thunderstorm. If there's some high-flying birds, you're going to run right into them. If there's a mountain in front of you, you're going to run right into it. If there's another plane in front of you, you're going to run right into it. Automatic pilots do not see. Pilots see. Humans see. But if they take the plane and control it, they have to take it off of automatic pilot. Now the captain has to do all of the work. Okay. Of keeping that airplane flying. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take you off of automatic pilot and put you in control. And the first thing that you're going to learn to control is your own breathing. This is not choiceless awareness until you're already deeply in a state of satisfaction. Okay. And only when you're in a deep state of satisfaction can you practice choiceless awareness. But not the kind of choiceless awareness then that allows that satisfaction to be destroyed by fear. But no, this is the kind of satisfaction is, oh, I see that fear, but it's not going to take me out of this state. That's the kind of choiceless awareness that we're shooting for. That's kind of a, let us say, a skill that will slowly be developed.
Okay.
Not something that we're going to try to practice in the beginning of choiceless awareness. Oh no, you're going to take on control. You're going to gladden the mind. You're going to take on the attitude of a winner. You're going to experience the win, the success. You're going to experience those deep breaths. You're going to watch the body. I don't see any choicelessness in there at all. I see a whole lot of new choices to make. And the choice is yours, to be happy or to stay choicelessly miserable.
All right. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you. Good.
Thanks a lot.
I'll see you in about a week. You go ahead and practice the timing and all that you've been doing now, but you add this secret ingredient, this what we call a teaspoonful of sugar.
Okay then.
All righty.
See you in a week. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, by the way, what should I call you? Cat?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, you can call me that. It's Catalin, but that's
Catalin. Okay.
Okay. You can shorten it. It's no problem. You can call me wherever. I don't mind.
All right. Well, cat is very close to a lion.
Okay. I'm good with that. Okay.
All right. So, we'll see you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Okay. See you next week. Bye-bye.